Hey there, moist and delicious fluff beverages. Lurks here, and today we're going to talk about possibly the most important thing in all of furriness. That's right, the ref sheet. You can't get art made, you can't get a fursuit made, you can't get some other things made without a good ref sheet. We're going to talk about what makes a good ref sheet, what are some things that you probably shouldn't have in your ref sheet, different types of ref sheets, and what you might need a ref sheet for. Joining me today will be my very talented artist friend Opiodae, who did the art on this channel. Thank you as always to our super generous patrons. You are awesome. If you'd like to become a patron, click the link down below. Also check out our new RL Furry Productions logo merchandise over on Teespring, and a special one-time offer. If you are not a giant douche, you are able to save the drama for your mama, you might want to join the RL Furry Productions Discord server. The link will be open for a limited time only. All right, I'm going to switch over to virtual lurks and start talking with Opiodae. Everything you need to know about ref sheets coming right up. All right, it is virtual lurks here with Opiodae to tell you all you need to know about ref sheets. We are going to talk about 4 main topics. What do you need a ref sheet for? What types of ref sheets are there? What a ref sheet should have? And what to avoid. All right, Opiodae, who are you?
Hi everybody, my name is Opiodae, and I'm one of Riv's artist friends, I guess you could say. I've been doing artwork for quite a long time. I met Riv's back at MFF in 2017, and I'm actually responsible for the channel art that you see on this channel.
All right, so starting out, what kind of things do you need a ref sheet for?
Oh yes, definitely. Beyond just things like getting artwork or even the obvious things like fursuits, there's other kinds of merchandise that people like to get. They like to get things like the ever popular growing 3D models. People also like to get other types of merchandise such as pins, lanyards. So it's really important that you kind of have a reference sheet for all of those things if you don't already, especially if you're getting these kinds of things made by people other than yourself.
Yeah, you tend to think of ref sheets as just for artwork or just for fursuits, but ref sheets are useful for a lot of stuff.
When it comes to commissions by different artists, it's really important for us to have a sheet to look at for your character to provide you with like the product that you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important to have an accurate ref sheet or, well, you're not going to get an accurate product. So there are more than one type of ref sheet. Let's talk about those a little bit.
Oh, definitely. Like for me, for myself, I'll usually just create like a very simple personalized reference sheet that kind of shows my character, gives a little bit of a personality. It's nothing really specific or rigid. A lot of people may just want like a very simple sheet like this, like a little character bust that just shows like a full body of your character. Just one like really easy drawing to just kind of look back on and just kind of see. The other major type is project reference sheets, and project reference sheets usually are way more detailed. They show like front, back, side. It's ones that you normally want to get to hand to your art to hand to an artist to look at to create your product. So that's pretty much like the two big categories. Is more of like a personalized reference sheet, and then your more professional reference sheet to have. Some people may not have a whole lot of money in their fuzzy bank accounts to get a ref sheet done. What are some options if you don't have money to pay an artist to make you a really nice custom one? And that's a really good question, because not everybody is an artist either. So it's really not that hard either anymore to go online and see that there's different kinds of free bases out there that you can look for. Even fursuit makers such as Made For You have a free template that you can use to create your fursuit reference sheet, or just use it for any other things like the examples that I gave, like for 3D modeling and whatnot. These resources are free. Like, you can legitimately just go online and Google reference sheet base. Just be sure that whenever you're posting these reference sheets, just be sure that you can always credit the artist, because that's a really respectful thing to do. But these reference sheet bases are out there for you to use, And there's even cheap ones out there that you can pay to use. Even if you don't have a whole lot of money, a lot of these bases don't usually cost that much. Usually somewhere between like $5 to $10 just for a really nice base that you can just color in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. The base that Riv was originally drawn on was actually one from Chesta, and that one I think is $6 if you want to use it. And there are some free ones out there too, but make sure, of course, that if you're using one that you're supposed to pay for, that you are in fact paying for it. What should a reference sheet have on it? As an artist, what do you want to see when you get a reference sheet for art that you are going to be working on?
Definitely. Now, just as a reminder for people, you can always have a personalized reference sheet that doesn't have to have all these things on it. This is things that are recommended for reference sheets that you are handing to an artist to create your own personalized piece of artwork, and you want them to do it to the best accuracy that they can do it. That said, it's really important that you provide enough angles for your character. Usually this means like a front or back or even a side view of your character. Just kind of like shows what the markings look like all the way around your character. Another thing to note is that you want to have an accurate color palette off to the side that shows the colors that are on your screen. Some artists, like myself, may have color issues where we can't necessarily differentiate the colors from one another, especially if they're really complex. So it's easy to have like a color palette off to the side so we can just reference what's there. And especially when it comes to things like fursuit makers that need to match up furs, fur colors, fabrics, it's there for us to match it up to. And lastly, make sure that everything that you want represented in your piece is shown in your reference sheet. Paws, the inside of your mouth, antlers, wings, tails, anything that you would want to show in your reference sheet or on your finished piece, make sure it's on your reference sheet. And if it's not on your reference sheet, make sure you let your artist know that you want that shown in the art that you're commissioning from them.
So yeah, put all your accessories and other stuff, or send a separate file if you have accessories or other things that you want to add in there. And it's really important, of course, especially if you're getting something 3D made, like a 3D model or a fursuit, to have the entire circumference of the character covered with a reference so they can see it from every single angle. If it's a two-dimensional piece of art, just from the front or one angle, that's one thing, but you really need to have at least a three-sided reference for a fursuit or for a 3D model.
And while we're on that topic, it's also important to note that while it's not really a requirement for most artists, it's a good notion to make sure that your reference sheet kind of goes towards the style of what you're wanting to commission, especially for things like fursuits or 3D models where specific artists have a certain style that they have. It may make it easier for them to translate your character into their style. This isn't a requirement, and not all artists want you to have this or even need you to have this, but it is a plus for some artists that have trouble visualizing your character in their style, especially whenever you're going from one style to another, such as Western to kimono styles, where the styles are so drastically different. It may help them loads.
Yeah, it really helps, and we'll look at some of my ref sheets here in a bit and kind of show some of the issues with that, where I have some ref sheets right now where the characters, the shape of them and the style of them is a little different than the way my characters are actually presented, and sometimes that can cause an issue or cause me to have to send other material as a reference. So yeah, try to get your ref sheet looking like your character. I mean, it seems like an obvious thing, but there are lots of different styles that art can be drawn in, and if you have a ref sheet that's super toony and your character is super anthro, it might not work as well. So just another thing to consider there. What should you not have on your ref sheet? What should you avoid on a ref sheet?
Definitely there are some things that you want to try to avoid on a project reference sheet, and one of the big things that you want to avoid on your project reference sheet is any kind of shading. Like, you can have very simple cel shading on your artwork, and that's completely fine, but you want to avoid that for majority of your piece to have shading all over it, especially if you don't have a color palette on there at your disposal. And if you do have shading on your reference sheet, please provide an unshaded one, or make sure that the color palette is completely visible and that it's easy to tell where your colors are transitioning on your character, because that can be a pain for a lot of artists. And that goes into my next point. Make sure that the resolution of your artwork is a decent size. it makes it very hard for artists to differentiate the colors on your characters if your reference sheet is too small for us to properly color pick. Make sure that you don't lose the quality of your original piece, and this is really easy by making sure that your file format is set to PNG instead of JPEG. Usually this happens a lot whenever you're passing your reference sheets between devices, such as mobile devices that will automatically convert your files. To mitigate this, it's really easy to just post your reference sheet to a cloud such as Google Drive that preserves the quality of your reference sheet in a place where you can easily just pull it out and it stays at its original quality. So definitely make sure that you don't have your reference sheet mucked up with a bunch of shading, and make sure that it's not mucked up with a bunch of artifacting. Two very big ones.
All right, another thing that you want to avoid with your ref sheets, this is a mistake that I've actually made before. It seems obvious, but don't leave anything on there that's not exactly what you want. An artist who's making a ref sheet is going to expect to have to make a lot of edits to it, most likely, because it's the basis for anything you want to do. So you want it to be perfect, and the artist is probably going to understand that you want it to be perfect and be willing to make changes. I've had situations where this one of Riv, when I originally got the ref sheet, I didn't catch the fact that the color was slightly off, so some of the art I got afterwards was the wrong color. I also didn't catch the fact that there were kind of jagged fur lines on the tail, even though his tail is short fur, and those ended up in some art pieces too, including a really expensive one. Make sure it's 100% exactly what you want before you take that final ref sheet.
That also includes making sure that your ref sheet is just kind of up to date in general, and make sure that you don't have anything in there that's not current to your character anymore. Colors, accessories, maybe a personality quirk that's not really that much in your character anymore. Things that just aren't there anymore, make sure that you leave them out of your reference sheet. If it's something really major, it may even be worth your while to get a new reference sheet made entirely.
And another thing to mention is that you may have to get things changed slightly for certain things. Like for fursuits, the colors in your ref sheet may not necessarily 100% equate to fur that's available out there. So it's important to remember you may have to work with a fursuit maker to actually make the character work in physical form in fur.
Definitely. Whenever it comes to physical products like stuffed animals, fursuits, clay models, needle felling, anything that's more so of a physical thing, or even on 3D models, you have to consider the things like patterns, complex patterns, unavailable colors for fabrics and whatnot. There's a lot of different artists out there that will make sure they let you know that, hey, we need to make an alteration to your character to make it actually work in this project.
Anything else to consider when talking about ref sheets?
Oh yeah, and I apologize if it's like a lot of information. Really, it's such a simple thing. You set down your character in front of you and you're like, I want to visualize this character in costume. I want to visualize them as a stuffed animal. That's great. Just sit down and draw draw a teddy bear, and then draw your character over the teddy bear, and there you go. You've made a stuffed animal reference of your character. It's that simple. It's not as hard as it sounds. If you want to make a fursuit, you can sit down, you can even draw over a picture of a fursuit, and then kind of just like color it in, show how it would look. It's really not that hard to make a nice reference sheet. These are just some really good points to take into consideration to make a good reference sheet, to make sure that your commission process is as painless as possible. Artists aren't out there to hurt you, and we really want you to provide you with the best experience ever. So to make things as painless as possible, having a great reference sheet helps a lot of things, and it can last you for such a long time, especially if you have a character that doesn't change that much. It's just really good to have handy. And it saves you having to link folders and folders of pictures, or saves you time from having to write up this document of what your character looks like.
Lots of great information there. This was so much more than I could have thought up myself on this topic. I really appreciate your help on this, and I think everybody viewing this is going to appreciate it a lot too. So get out there and get yourself a reference sheet, take some of these points and make it as good as you can. That way your art, your fursuits, whatever you commission will come out awesome. All right, thanks a lot, Opiodae, for your time and all that great information.
Oh, definitely. It was great being able to sit down with you and share like all kinds of things. And anytime if people want to reach out and say hi to me on social media, you could find me at Opiodae on Twitter. If you want any help finding links to fursuit reference sheet bases, definitely reach out to me. I have these kinds of things just kind of saved off the side. I'll definitely share them with you. Or if you just want information on things like who to commission for reference sheets, I can definitely link people to resources like that as well.